Hi, I'm Andrea. Thank you so much for joining me for this 30-minute yoga practice. Although I am standing on a yoga mat, if you don't have one, don't sweat it. Find a place in your house that's carpeted. Maybe you have a rug that can serve as your yoga mat for today. I just don't want you to be on something that's too hard or slippery. I have a couple of yoga blocks. You can substitute 2 thick books to be your yoga blocks today. And I have a folded blanket. This is literally the throw blanket from my couch, so you could do the same. Or maybe a thick beach towel. I also have a sleeping dog. That's pretty great to have on hand, should you happen to have one. We'll start today in what's called child's pose. So you'll come down onto your mat. And our child's pose, you've got a few different ways in which to do it, and I've got some ideas about how we might do it. I'm going to take my 2 blocks and place them lowest, so you could have 2 books here. Now, child's pose often is sinking our hips into our heels, and for some people's knees that doesn't feel very good. This variation is a shoulder opener, and it's going to take us off our knees a little bit. So you'll place your elbows on your blocks or books, and then imagine your forehead going onto the ground in between your 2 blocks. It may not do that. You could even bring your folded blanket or towel into the mix here. And then we'll let our hips lift and bring a prayer behind our back. And from here, we'll turn the arrows of attention inward and bring our awareness to our breath. If you can, you're breathing both in and out through your nose. If that's not happening, don't worry about it. I'd just like you to bring some awareness to your breath. "30 seconds of silence, breathing and opening our shoulders and turning inward. Then start to bring yourself out of our original shape here. Take your blocks off to the side out of your way so that we can come onto our bellies into Sphinx pose. So to set up Sphinx pose, bring your forearms parallel to the long edges of your mat. And before we go any further, press into the tops of your feet until you feel your kneecaps come off your mat. So we're really active in our legs. They're not just hanging out. Pull your elbows towards you, but they're not actually going to move anywhere. They're going to move your chest through the gateway of your arms. And I want us to think of this being a long and strong back bend, one in which we're not overusing our neck and we're not scrunching our shoulders into our ears. So you're going to press down into your forearms and drag those forearms towards you. So you're opening up space anywhere you can find it. Let your chin stay parallel to the ground. 3 moments here in Sphinx pose. Now lower down, and maybe that's pretty much where this wants to stay, the duration, and that would be fine. You might reposition your hands next to your ribs, not elbows out to the side and shoulders in our ears. Elbows brush against our ribs, pointing back behind us. Shoulders stay out of our ears. We activate our legs again. We think long, strong back bend. And we go forward and up with our chest, not our chin, but our chest, and create a cobra pose. If this is a little bit feeling crowded, maybe that Sphinx pose that we did before feels better to you. You get to use agency in your practice. You get to decide what is the best version of the pose for you today. And then we'll lower down from our cobra, curl our toes under. So if you did Sphinx, bring your hands next to your ribs. We go through all 4, so firm through your belly with your toes curled under, come to all 4s. From all 4s, down dog, lift your tailbone, step your feet as wide as your mat, spread your hands wide on your mat, lift your sit bones high, bend your knees and come up high on your tiptoes, let your hips move away from your hands. Imagine that there's a hook in your tailbone. So again, we're not collapsed elbows out to the side. We're pushing the ground away. We want to lift our hips as far away from our head as we can. And then let's walk forward, feet all the way to our hands. Feet are hip distance. Hands come to your ankles, your shins, or even up onto your thighs. Exhale, hinge at your hips. You might slide your hands down towards your ankles. I don't want a rounded spine though, so as we fold, it's length through our spine, almost like Sphinx pose has come with us. Then firm your belly, inhale, rise, reach, thumbs to the sky, V-shape overhead. Stand in what we call mountain pose. So feet hip distance, palms face out. A little soft bend in our knees. Inhale, arms out and up, thumbs to the sky, a V shape. Exhale, hinge at your hips, hands to your thighs or your shins or your ankles. Inhale, slide your hands up as you lengthen your spine. Let's just exhale and fold back in for this first one. And then inhale, rise, reach, thumbs to the sky, V shape. Stand in your mountain. Palms face out, but they face out from our shoulder joint, and our chin stays parallel to the ground. Let's keep adding on. Inhale, arms out and up, thumbs to the sky, V shape. Exhale, hinge at your hips and hands to your thighs, maybe to your shins or to your ankles. Inhale, uplift your heart. As you exhale, bend your knees deeply enough that your hands get flat on the ground. Then step back into that down dog that we sported together. I'm going to continue to step my feet as wide as my mat. You could be hip distance or as wide as I am. Really press the ground away with your hands. Exaggerate the uplift of your hips. You're welcome to keep bend in your knees. You might start to sink your heels down and straighten your legs, but not if that's rounding your spine. So our priority is a very long spine and an uplift of our hips here in our downward facing dog. Walk your feet forward to your hands. Let them become hip distance towards the front edge of your mat. Hands to ankles, shins, or thighs as we inhale and uplift our heart. Exhale, keep the length in your spine as you fold back in, sliding your hands down maybe. Firm your belly. Inhale, rise, reach, thumbs to the sky, V shape. Stand and pause in your mountain, palms face out. Adding another friend. Inhale, arms out and up, thumbs to the sky, V shape. Exhale, hinge at your hips and hands to your thighs or your shins or your ankles. Inhale, uplift your heart, bend your knees deeply, palms flat, step back to your down dog. Organize your feet so that it makes sense. It could be a wide stance or hip distance. Our tailbone is lifted. Then shift forward so that your shoulders come over your wrists, at which point you could bring your knees to your mat for a modified plank if you'd like. But really feel your hands spread wide and the circle around each palm. We're not collapsed into our shoulder joints. We're pushing the ground away here too, as if filling out in between our shoulder blades. Lift that hook in your tailbone back into down dog, and then walk your feet forward all the way to your hands. Inhale, hands to ankles, shins or thighs as you uplift your heart. Exhale, hinge at your hips. And then inhale, rise, reach, thumbs to the sky, V shape. Stand in your mountain, palms face out. Inhale, arms out and up, thumbs to the sky, V. Exhale, hinge at your hips and hands to your thighs or shins or ankles. Inhale, uplift your heart. Bend your knees. Palms go flat as we step back, and the hook in our tailbone takes us to down dog. Shift shoulders over wrists in our plank position, oomping into our arms, pushing the ground away, and then bring your knees to your mat right underneath where they were when you were in plank proper. Shift a little bit forward, firm your belly a lot. Let your elbows brush your ribs as we come all the way down onto our belly. Uncurl your toes. Come into Sphinx pose for this first one. So remember, forearms parallel to the long edges of our mat. Press into the tops of your feet. Let your kneecaps come off your mat. Traction your elbows towards you, heartless through the gateway of our arms. Lower down. Curl your toes under. Place your hands next to your ribs. All fours requires some trunk stability, so core work as we come to all fours. Our hips lift us up and back into down dog. And then we'll walk our feet forward all the way to our hands. Inhale, hands to ankles, shins or thighs as you uplift your heart. Exhale, hinge at your hips. Inhale, rise, reach thumbs to the sky, V shape, and then stand in your mountain. Palms face out. Inhale, arms out and up, thumbs to the sky, V. Exhale, hinge at your hips and hands to your thighs or shins or ankles. Inhale, uplift your heart. Bend your knees deeply enough that your palms go flat on the ground. We step it back into our down dog. Length to our spine is our priority, and then we shift to plank, shoulders over wrists, belly firm, knees down. Elbows brush our ribs as we come all the way down onto our belly. Uncurl your toes and either keep your hands right here for Cobra or return them to where you had them for Sphinx pose. Lower down, curl your toes under. Firm through your belly as you come through all fours. Let your tailbone lift you into down dog. Empty out and walk your feet forward all the way to your hands. Feet are hip distance. Inhale, hands on ankles, shins, or thighs. Exhale, hinge at your hips. Then inhale, rise, reach thumbs to the sky, V shape. Stand in your mountain. An uplift to our heart, palms face out. Let's step wide on our mat. So facing that long edge, extend your arms out to the side, thumbs to the sky, and just think ankles underneath wrists, heels in, toes out, not to an extreme, at about a 45-degree angle with both of your feet, and then bend your knees like a plie here in horse stance. Some people call it goddess pose. With our goddess pose or our horse stance, turn your thumbs to face down and then bring either the backs of your hands to the small of your back or create a prayer behind your back. And as we do that, we want to make sure we're not overcompensating in our neck or in our low back. So knit together your bottom ribs and your hip points and let this happen in your shoulders versus in your back or neck. We stay here standing tall, lifting our low belly, keeping our gaze at what I like to call our bright horizon. 3 silent moments together here. Now slowly straighten your front leg, both your legs. Turn your toes to face the long edge of your mat. Slide your hands down into an interlace and let it be your right pinky that's on the bottom. Inhale, lift your heart. Little soft bend in our knees as we hinge at our hips and cascade our arms up and over into a forward fold. This forward fold also wants to have a very long spine. So a bend in our knees might be helpful to the priority of our long spine. We'll stay for just 3 moments here. And then firm through your belly and come all the way upright. Once again, heels in, toes out at about 45 degrees. Arms out to the side, thumbs to the sky. Bend your knees like a plie. Once you're here, thumbs face down and either backs of your hands to the small of your back or start to climb that prayer in between your shoulder blades and open up like our Sphinx pose, but feel your low belly lift like when we came onto all fours and incorporated some core work. Let's find the gaze at our bright horizon and stay for 3 moments here. Then straighten your legs, turn your toes to face the long edge of your mat, slide your hands into that interlace, but swap it out so that the left pinky is on the bottom now. Lift your heart, inhaling, and then hinge at your hips and take your arms up and over. And remember, we are prioritizing that this not be a rounded fold, that we keep that length through our spine, so we may not go all that far down, and we actually might keep quite a bit of bend in our knees. Let's stay for a few moments. And then firm through your belly and come all the way upright. Once upright, heel toe, we'll let go of our interlace and make our way to the front edge of our mat with our feet hip distance. And we stand once again in our mountain. Inhale, arms out and up, thumbs to the sky, V. Exhale, hinge at your hips and hands to your thighs, maybe to your shins or your ankles. Inhale, uplift your heart. Take your hands onto your mat, step back, let your tailbone lead the way as we come into our down dog. This time, lift your right leg back behind you, and then step that right foot forward. Often we need help it along to step forward. Come onto your fingertips, or maybe even better yet, take your 2 blocks on either side of your right foot, and then heel toe your right foot over to the right a little bit. Keep your left hand on your block and turn open, right thumb to the sky in an easy twist, which is actually not so easy when we have the orientation of right hip back and left hip forward. We're not letting that right hip swing out to the side. We're putting it right where our prayer was, behind our back in our horse stance. We have 3 moments here. Then we will unwind and move our blocks out of our way. Palms flat, step into down dog. Lift your sit bones high, make sure you're lifting away from the ground, and then shift into plank. Bring your knees to your mat. Lower elbows, brush your ribs all the way onto your belly. Uncurl your toes for either Sphinx pose or for your cobra pose. Lower down, we come through all 4s, firm through your belly. Our tailbone lifts us into our down dog. From down dog, our left leg lifts. We step it forward, and if it needs us to help it along, we help it along. Blocks might come into the mix here. Steer left hip back and right hip forward. You might heel toe your left foot to the left a little bit. Long spine, as if our prayer was still behind our back. Right hand stays down, left thumb to the sky as we twist right into that shoulder blade area of our spine. We explore here for a few breaths. And then we unravel and move our blocks out of our way so that we can step into down dog with that hook in our tailbone leading the way. Walk your feet forward all the way to your hands and let them be hip distance as you inhale, and maybe your hands are on your ankles, shins, or thighs. Uplift your heart. Exhale, hinge and fold back in. Inhale, rise, reach, thumbs to the sky, V shape, and then stand in your mountain. Inhale, arms out and up, thumbs to the sky, V. Exhale, hinge at your hips, hands to your thighs or shins or ankles. Inhale, uplift your heart. Bend your knees deeply enough that you can make your way to downward facing, and of course our hips are high. Lift your right leg behind you. Step it forward and help it along in any way that it might need. This time, Turn your back foot, your left foot flat. Heel toe your right foot over to the right and begin to straighten your front leg, but let your spine stay long. So that might mean that we keep a bit of bend in our somewhat straight front leg. We want length through our spine and a hinge at our hip. So we're still thinking prayer behind our back in that horse stance that we did, even though I know this pose doesn't look anything like that. We'll stay and soak here for 3 silent moments. And then left hand stays on our block, and perhaps we want to turn the block tall so we can twist open without swinging our hip out to the side. Right thumb to the sky as we rotate and breathe. 3 silent moments in this shape. We'll unwind. Bend your front knee and spin on your back toes. Scoot your blocks out of the way. Palms flat, down dog. Lift up high in your sit bones. And then shift into plank, shoulders over wrists. Knees down, slow motion onto our belly. Uncurl your toes for either cobra or sphinx pose. And then lower down and curl your toes under. Come through all 4s. Let your tailbone find its hook that lifts you up and back into down dog. Left leg lifts behind us. We step it through and then spin our back foot flat. Heel toe, left foot to the left. Trot your blocks in for some extra space and begin to move towards a straight front leg. But prioritize length through your spine. Just like we did in our interlaced forward fold with wide legs not long ago. And we'll soak in this in some silence and stretch. And then right hand stays on our block. Maybe we turn that tall. Left thumb to the sky as we twist open. We're not swinging that left hip out to the side. The left hip is drawing back. Every inhale we grow long through our spine, and we remember where that prayer was earlier, behind our back. 2 moments together here. Now we'll unwind and bend our front knees, spinning on our back toes, moving our blocks out of the way, step to down dog, and once again, it's like sassy with our hips to the sky and a bend in our knees, and then shift forward, shoulders over your wrists, knees down, belly super strong as we lower all the way down, uncurling our toes, making our way into a cobra or an up dog, and then lower it down and roll over onto your back. So this time we roll onto our back and place our feet hip distance on the ground, knees pointing up to the sky. Before we go any further, bring one hand to your heart and one hand to your low belly and pause. Feel the beating of your heart. A lot of the postures we've done have been about heart opening. Twists are even heart opening. And of course, the prayer behind our back. We'll continue with that idea of heart opening in a bridge pose. Palms flat. Snuggle your shoulder blades underneath you. Lift your hips towards the sky, but think of your hips also extending to the back of your knees. So long, strong back bend here as well. I'm turning to look at you, but I would prefer that the back of your head be on your mat. So once you've got what we're doing, instead of turning and torquing your neck in any way. And then lower down and place a hand on your heart and a hand on your low belly. 3 silent moments here. One more time into our bridge. It could be that this time as you lift your hips up, you interlace your hands like we did in a forward fold and snuggle your shoulder blades underneath you even more. Think tailbone to the back of your knees. Let the back of your head be heavy on your mat. We stay here for 3 moments together. And then carefully release it down. Let's take a twist here, so scoot your hips to the right. Let your right knee maybe cross on top of your left. Your knees will drop over to the left. We pause a moment here. Then come through center, scoot your hips to the left and let your knees drop to the right, and perhaps you like to cross your left knee on top of your right knee as we twist, and pause. Then come through center and cross your right ankle on top of your left thigh. You might stay here or thread the needle, right hand, through the space. You can interlace on top of your left shin or around your left hamstring. And if it's a struggle, maybe put your block or book underneath the back of your head. 45 seconds of silence in this stretch. And then gently release this side. Left ankle on top of right thigh. Left hand might reach through the space. And it can interlace around your shin or around your hamstring. And we take our 45 seconds of silence here. And then gently release. Step your feet as wide as your mat. Let your knees fall in on each other as if you were knock-kneed. Tuck one shoulder blade and then the other underneath you, and very gently lift your hips just an inch to create some space. Release your hips back onto your mat, and then you can stay here or extend one leg. And then the other leg straight with your feet flopping open into our Shavasana final meditation. You could close your eyes, even cover your eyes, and then let's let go. And you're welcome to stay here in your Shavasana final meditation as long as you would like. If you're ready to start to find your way back, wiggle your fingers and toes. Maybe give yourself a stretch, arms and legs in opposite directions. Gather your knees in your chest, roll to either side, and bring yourself up to any comfortable seated position. Once you're seated, place your hand on your heart and your low belly again. Let's wear this uplift in our heart out into the world, where I think the real yoga happens. I'm Andrea. Thank you so much for practicing with me. I look forward to us doing it again together soon.